Hello, and welcome to Just Three Workplace Gurus, a podcast about the real world of work. I'm Amy,
I'm Mike.
I'm Vivian.
and
Uh,
today we're welcoming our guest, Chao Dou, applied research consultant with Steelcase. We had the fortunate opportunity back in November to do a live event, and Chao was on our panel. And she really wowed us with all of her knowledge about AI, technology, and the changes that are happening in the workplace. So we welcome Chao back. Thank you, Chao, for joining us.
Hi.
So, Chao, I think you've been doing a lot of research over the last few years on kind of what that workplace demands are, how people are feeling integrated into the workplace, and kind of that human centered approach. And it's been evolving. And so I'd love to hear what you've been finding lately and some of the challenges that people have been facing.
Sounds good. And just a little bit about my background. What's unique is that I was raised across China, United States, and Singapore. So growing up, moving around, I really got the first chance to see, kind of understand different cultures and how that shapes people and their behaviors. And I think that experience really made me curious about cultures and people, which is why during the recent phases, I've been really thinking about what does it mean to be human in this digital age. So I was thinking about the time pre-pandemic, and I would describe it as kind of a connected spiral with dots around it. And the reason I say that is because I feel like pre-pandemic, as a society, we kind of came to some norms and agreements of how to behave, even with other countries, and what's okay. And I feel like during the pandemic, there was the first boom. So literally, we all had to social distance for 6 feet, right? So there's a horizontal boom, and all of a sudden the world just felt a lot bigger, and there's a lot more space between everyone. Wearing mask, what's okay? Is it okay to hug you? Is it okay to shake hands? Right. So I feel like the pandemic really created a lot of distance and space across the world. And then after that, I think during the most recent AI boom, I feel like with that expansion, we exploded again vertically. Whereas some people are still going through their day as usual. There's some people that are adapting, using AI lightly. Some people are starting to create with AI. Some people are jumping onto AI and really starting to learn. So it's really creating I think there's a lot more space between everyone right now in the world. And with that space, there's a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of confusion. So I feel like that's been the biggest thought or what I've been thinking a lot lately.
Can I just comment on something? This really important piece societally, if that's the word, which is affecting the workplace, but goes way beyond the workplace. That
Hmm.
physical distance,
Hmm.
it's really important because we don't have that physical distance anymore, but we do. Like I'm working, people are working remotely. Some people are working the hybrid. Like we don't have that, at least at workplace. We don't have that physical proximity to each other. In some cases, it's coming back, right? But with AI, I just saw something insane come across one of my feeds about like there's some show about some woman who's literally dating her AI boyfriend, and she
Hmm.
programmed him to be a certain specific way, kind of bossy. She doesn't wanna make any decisions. She's a single mom. She makes decisions all day, but I feel like that physical distance allows for some really unique interpretations or experiences in what you're calling now this vertical. So, I feel like
Hmm.
one created space for the other, or they just the timing happens to be such that it is, but fascinating. Anyway, just wanted to say
Yeah.
that's the more extreme case of the AI relationship, but
I love that point because it's something I've been pondering, right? It's AI is still just a tool. It depends on who's using it. So like any other tool, if you're trying to use it to monetize, it's going to pull you in a certain direction. If you're using it for good, it pulls you in a different direction. And I feel like for a while, even before the AI has been around for a while, but before the AI boom, there's a social media boom. And I felt like a lot of the direction for that was to get you to become addicted because it's grabbing for your attention, right? Attention means money, means so I felt like for a while there was a grab for attention. So you become really addicted to your phone or your social media and want to be on it all the time. But like what you were talking about, the AI partner, now I feel like we're getting to a portion of where it's becoming dependency more than just addiction, is you're reliant on the AI. It can be your best friend, it can be your partner, it can be your teacher, it can be your therapist. Like it can literally be whatever you want it to be. And because we have so much of that space between people now, where there's not so much norm, there's just so much distance. That's
More
where you're talking
isolated.
about.
Yeah.
Right. There's room for people to start room for AI to fulfill all the roles that we're craving and missing. So that's why I think it's a little bit scary if you go to that side of dependency and attachment.
Well,
But
there's even
yeah.
something I noticed with over the years since the pandemic. We relied on the screen to communicate, right?
Mhm.
And it has happened so many times now that it's disturbing. So it was already disturbing, to try to talk to someone, they're like, "I'm listening.
Yeah.
Are you?" And I noticed it like a good year after things settled down, maybe 2022, 23 that we're talking, but there was
Yeah.
like a social gathering where, there was a bunch of us in a house for a weekend,
Mhm.
and everybody and we hadn't seen each other for it was like a big reunion, and I can't tell you how often I saw people drifting into corners of the house with their phone, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This is so sad." So, I think it all ties together, and, the social media was designed to addict us, but also connect us. I feel like
Right.
AI is much more solitary, which is also
Mm.
scary in a different way, right? It's your unique experience with AI, and it kinda echo chambers you too. I'm a
Right.
fan, by
It
the way. I'm a user, but
to to me, it's almost too convenient. Like
Mhm.
I don't have to figure out how to engage with others if I just engage with my phone and the AI tool that I'm using. And so, as Vivian, as you indicated in this story, it's just easier for this person to connect with an AI tool and have that tool be the person that they
what is
want instead of actually going out and finding connections and figuring out how to do it. It's almost, I don't know that I want to say it's lazy. It's just too convenient.
also that
Um,
AI tools sound very personal.
they
Mhm.
Vivi,
do.
that was such a smart instinct you had there. Um Even if I just told it, like,
What
"What are
have
you
you been
talking
talking
about?"
to
Right?
it about, Vivian?
Anything I say, it says, "That's a great idea, very
Right.
positive." You know? But it can also reflect who you are. So, my we have a family member who was gravely ill, at one point, and me and my cousin put the exact same information we received into our respective AI tool, and it was the same AI tool. Mine was such this positive outcome, and his was this like, "Oh my gosh, she's done." And I was
Oh
like, "Oh,
man.
that's crazy because it knew us.
Hmm.
It knows what you
That's
wanted.
another layer. Anyway,
Yeah,
back
it's
to you.
customized, right? It's customized, catering to you, says exactly what you want, how you want it. You can tell it to not say something, and it will be like, "Oh, noted, memory saved. In the future, I would not say it this way." So it's so catered. And I this brings up to a podcast I listened to between Esther Perel and Trevor Noah. Esther Perel, psychologist, Trevor Noah, comedian slash in his own world right now. But what I loved about that they talked about was friction, healthy friction. Because I feel like as a society, I mean, especially in American culture, right? I was born in China, so there was this a lot of friction. It was super welcome. People will tell you things you don't want to hear just because they felt like you needed to hear it. But when I moved to America, I felt like it was so everyone is so nice and kind, but there's an avoidance of friction. And then maybe I'm generalizing. And friction is what builds connection. So when Trevor Noah being a comedian, he talked about technology, like it's really designed to remove friction, right? Even AI, even hybrid, we're all constantly removing friction. But when we don't have friction, it's harder for human to have those moments of connection. So as a comedian, he talked about, well, if he lands in LAX, gets in an Uber, doesn't talk to anyone, and just gets home, there's no comedy material. It is about running into a shop, having a weird interaction with the shop owner, and then running into someone, having another weird interaction. Then he can be on stage sharing those moments for people to laugh at and connect with. So I feel like when we're removing friction, which is what technology is so good at, we're actually removing that piece of human connection.
Well, and you don't learn to listen. You don't learn about yourself. You don't have healthy debate that helps you evolve as a person. And so it feels to me so limiting if that's the world that you decide to move into. It's a little frightening in that sense.
Yeah, and I'm curious how you see this affecting the workplace for good and for
Right.
bad, because there are AI tools that are making work, unbelievably different and efficient and better. I speaking from personal experience, things that would have taken weeks take an hour. It's great, like, for productivity, but, anyway, I'm just curious what your thoughts are there.
I I I feel like I'm just speaking from my own experience because AI is growing so much every single day, every hour that I can't comprehend all that's happening. I feel like we're still, as humanity, in a very early stage of adopting what does it mean for a culture, right? Like you said, maybe if I'm talking to you, working with you, but you're on your phone, I can't tell if you're talking to your AI. Are you working? Are you like what's happening? So there's a confusion. At the end of the day, it's about the human and human interaction and understanding and what are the cues and what are the agreements. Even before jumping in, another thought I've been thinking about, I was reading about this research that more than just the five senses that we have, there's actually 30 senses that we can comprehend. So yeah, there's like even calibration of balance. There's, when you digest something, there's an internal senses of how your body feels. So there's a lot more senses that we know. But if you think about it, AI is just digesting information. And that's all we know right as of now, right? AI is building their synthesis based on data information. But there's no eyes for us to look at to say, are you telling the truth? Are you hesitating? But with humans, we can look each other in the eye. We can read your facial micro expressions. We can read your body language. We can see what room you're in, how hot it is, right? So there's so many other cues that we're sensing and absorbing constantly. Whereas AI is still just, I mean, as we know now, our interaction has been just on this digital platform. So it's harder to tell when it hallucinates. You're like, wait, is that real? So sometimes you have to challenge it, you have to
Mhm,
double check the
mhm.
work. But as humans, we're just picking up more cues. So even just on that aspect, I feel like it's very interesting for us to trying to understand the human intelligence of what's happening, some contextual elements, because even if it were the four of us in person, right? We met in person, but now I have visual connection. I can't smell what's around you. There may be like something going on around you that I can't tell. So we're eliminating the amount of sensory aspects that we can get from interactions. That's why I think hybrid has been difficult for a lot of people. And then with AI, you're removing more of those layers. So just imagine the dimensionality of it all that,
How
yeah. So that,
how's can you dig a little deeper on how AI is removing that more? From the work I mean, from a social context, I get it, but from a work
right.
context.
It's not removing. I think I'm more trying to say that AI is more just one layer for us to receive the information, right? So when we're interacting with other humans in person, we're absorbing a lot more of the context of what's happening. When we're interacting with each other like we are on screen right now, we're, removing some of those senses and kind of focusing on just that. And when we're interacting with AI, it's more one dimensional as far as I understand right now, even though it is tapping into our emotional and logic and it can tell us a lot of things but it's just digesting information. Yeah.
I think you're right, 'cause I just had an experience yesterday that I was working on some marketing stuff, and I had a good 2-hour powwow with my, my AI tool, and I came up with, something, and I was literally conversing with it, being like, I don't think I like it. Can you make it more blah, blah?" And then I would take what it produced, it laid the foundation, and then I
Hmm.
started to write on top of it. But then I met with my business partner, and we went over it together, and it was a whole fresh perspective, and it took it
Hmm.
that next level that AI couldn't take
Yeah.
it to. It was a good foundation, it was a great start, it jump started us, like, and it was very valuable, but that human, um, look together, and
Mhm.
now having another literally a pair of eyes, but another brain, and another way of seeing
Mhm.
things, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, perfect." That would have been missed. So,
Yeah.
anyway, I think that illustrates your point.
I think we want to continue to look at it as a tool, which Chow alluded to at the beginning. If we keep thinking about it that way instead of more than it is, that helps to, because it can be incredibly effective and helpful and in providing information
Yeah,
that's easier to get. You know.
a time
Yeah.
saver galore, right.
I think it's allowing us to be more because we're all unique, right? We all have things we're really good at and then some things we struggle with. And I feel like what I've experienced is that AI help as a tool help me amplify or help me kind of bring up the level of things I struggle with, which is like maybe long format writing or certain things. So then I can be more myself. So
Mm.
I'm using it in a way that I love because for me frees me up to start, creating, innovating, finding patterns and think bigger. So I leverage it as, to help me with writing or certain things. But some writers are like, no, never, because for them that's an art. Every single word helps them to kind of process in a certain way. But for me, my expression of art is through actual painting and movement and different things. So I think it just frees us up to be more ourselves and whatever that really means.
I'm curious
Do
from
you-
your perspective, the etiquette side of AI.
Mhm.
So I feel like a lot of us depend on it for a variety of different things. You talked about long
Right.
format writing. Some people use it for emails. Some people use it, I don't know, to do responses to different things. And so,
Mhm.
what's the etiquette behind it of mentioning that where you got the information
Mm.
from or giving
Mhm.
credit where credit is due? What does that look like?
That's a really good question, and I've been, I think we're all trying to figure that out because I feel like even I remember in college, the professors are always like, source where it's from. There was a lot of effort in reading sources. But I felt like when we moved to the social media boom, people stopped sourcing, right? You just hear the stories, like few-second clips. You're like, oh, I heard it from Instagram. And then you're like, have you checked? Is that true? Is
Have you
there a source
verified it?
behind it,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Yeah.
But
And
we're
that's
we're
led to a lot of problems
it
across the world.
does.
Yeah.
Information because people aren't taking the time to actually go back and double check and form their own opinions. But then we're also just being thrown with so much information. So then you're absorbing a lot that you actually maybe are interested in the new information instead of actually taking the time to double check and source and make sure it's right. And I feel like with AI, it's even faster now, right? So now we're just going even faster. So
It's
I
gonna get
do
faster than that too.
Right.
I'm
So I
scared.
personally feel like if I see a video, I would love to know that it's made by AI or how much, because there's so much
Mhm.
AI created content now. Like you see a dog doing this thing. Someone told me a story. They saw like a golden retriever doing this thing to a whatever. So we know it's not real, but it looks so real that like it's creating this delusion and you want to know because what if children or people that don't use technology often are actually believing this to be real. So I personally believe that there should be more etiquette around sourcings, talking about how much AI is used, whether AI is used, because I think we accept it to say like, hey, I wrote you this email, AI helped a little, or this was assisted with AI, right? I don't know what you all think. Yeah.
Well, I had an experience recently that I don't know how to handle. A consultant that I hired sent something to me or the deliverable, and then my Google said I mean, at first I looked at it, I was like, "Well, it looks kinda AI-ish to me," but I was, like, giving them the benefit of the doubt, and then my Google said, because it was trying to sell me a tool, by the way, to help spot what is AI. It literally said, "This looks like a high probability of AI-generated content, and there's
Mhm.
39 more sections in this document that, look like it's AI-generated." I'm like, okay, how do I tell this how do I approach the consultant, right? Another degree of separation. Like, do I just go with it? Do I say, "Hey, like, I could have done this then." You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
You ask
so
So,
AI how to handle it.
yeah.
oh my god, you're right. No, I'm asking my human colleagues here.
You know what comes to
I think I
mind,
will
Vivian,
though.
is you have an AI tool tattling on an AI tool.
Yes.
Right.
Well, actually, and I just thought I kinda looked at this,
And
I
we're
thought,
just passively sitting back observing all these AI tools talking to each other. Like, what the heck is
well,
going
what
on?
about these AI agents that they're now saying will go into your email and answer for you? Like,
Right.
you go to the beach, you mean I was like, "Well, wait, what is all this? Stop it."
You
Well,
know,
we're
but I
removing that human-centered approach, and I think the
yeah.
friction you mentioned earlier is gonna be so important because
Mhm.
we're not able to have enough friction right now to solve
Mhm.
problems or to confront issues. We're kind of like, I mean, I am a candidate for this. When I do see friction, I am going to AI. What's the best way to handle this in a more positive way? Like, I'm not even
It's
thinking
good
about it
stuff too.
anymore.
Yes.
Right.
I was going to add just sort of full
Uh,
disclosure for our listeners and watchers that we use a tool called Riverside FM to record, and it is includes a huge AI component that is really helpful in the editing and the posting, and so you know we're talking about things that are difficult, and then I'm literally sitting here looking at the screen thinking in a couple hours I'll be able to put all this together and post it. Uh, it's confusing because there are
Confusing.
things about it we love and things about it that frighten us, and we're still learning. We're still trying to figure out what this is
Well,
going to mean.
yeah, and then
And
there's, like, uh, anyway, I had a situation with somebody, and we but anyway, she wound up writing me a letter. to give me her feelings. And I recognized that it was AI that wrote it. And I was
Mhm.
like, wait a minute. Like, so anyway, just weird things break down because
Yeah.
of that. Like, yeah.
Well, let me ask you another question, right? Because I think there's our friction with AI, understanding with AI, but again, AI is just a tool. So if let's just say you had to do a really complicated math problem and then you were using a calculator. Would you be upset if your consultant used a calculator? I'm just, just referencing that conversation to get to the math. Or did you really need them to do it by hand with their brain? That's question one. And then question two is when we
Good
move from
question.
calculator to computer, if the consultant used a computer to create the work result, would you be upset about that? Or are you okay with it? Because for them, it's like, well, whatever you use to get to the answer, as long as it helps me, that's all I need. And now I imagine the same thing. Imagine if the AI is like an evolution of that tool. They leverage AI to create a result. It still got you the answer you wanted, and you could have gotten on your own, but you wanted to. So it's, I guess to me, and I don't have the answer, but I'm trying to figure out like, we're struggling with how other people are using the AI, but is that really the question? Or is it, are you taking the time to look at the result? Are you just giving me whatever the AI told you and just like saying it without processing it? Or are you taking the time to review all the stuff and this truly represents how you feel and mean? And it's helping you to express yourself, like to go back to your friend now in a way that you couldn't write on your own. And this helped you process it. So
And that helps
it
the
allowed you
communication.
to, right. Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, what
Yeah,
you're talking
that's
about
fair.
is reverting back to the human connection.
Right.
You know, to my mind, in answer to that question, a math calculation is very different than an expression of emotion or information. Um, yeah, it's a fascinating way to think of it.
I'm only saying that because I personally feel like sometimes, like I'm like Amy. Sometimes if I have a conflict, like, ooh, what are some ways I can resolve this? And I look at all the options, and I was like, that one feels about right because they usually give you three options. Like that one sounds about right, and they would tell me something like, ooh, those words are something I would say, and I would go back and say, well, this is how I actually feel, and I push it and I push it, and I would have
Yeah, I
like
do
a
that too.
20 iteration conversation, and it might be an AI generated heartfelt message for me to send someone, but it helped me in this process to go back and forth with it in a way that old me might have a hard time and just be like, you know what? I'm just not going to talk about that. That I might just, yeah.
I think you're right. And, I had some people in the workplace that I was trying to communicate to, and I wasn't getting a response back.
Yeah.
And, we're busy and whatnot. But I did put into the AI, hey, could you help me write an email that would help elicit a response? Because I've tried 3 or 4 times now. Anyway, it did. And I was like, I wouldn't have
Mhm.
thought of that. Right. And then I sent out a batch of emails, and
Mhm.
within an hour, like 6 out of 10 got back to me.
Wow, that's
And that
incredible.
was like, then I was like, "Okay, what was different?" And so I was able to sort of discern that and then incorporate that. But so, like, again, a
Wow.
tool. So that's interesting.
Uh, I have a question for everybody. Do you engage with these AI tools by writing or by speaking? Because I have some friends
Oh,
who have dialogue with AI.
Mhm.
I know a
hang on.
couple, for instance, who have a conversation with an AI tool over coffee every morning. And I've never done that, and I wonder what you all think of that.
Well, wait, hold on. Let me ask a couple questions. Does this person have a partner, family, roommates, or do they live by themselves?
Right.
It's a married couple, and they sit around the kitchen, as I understand it,
Talking to
and
their
have a
AI
conversation with a specific tool. Yes.
instead of each other.
That's a good point. I
Well,
don't know.
I actually know people who do this too, and I think
Mhm.
it's more of an interactive conversation. So,
Mhm.
maybe they're curious about something, whether it's, I don't know, current events that's happening or a medical thing that they are questioning or just a thought. And so they're asking these questions to kind of, instead of reading the newspaper or something, they're interacting with this tool.
Well,
Mhm.
I think it gets dangerous if it starts replacing the friend, the partner, the whatever. Because like, there's that South Park episode. They did a very, very funny thing on AI, and whoever the main character is was complaining and asking advice, and you think he's talking to the wife, and then you see him like talking to the phone. The wife is next to him like this, and but it really said something kind of powerful, which I think is happening, right? So
Yeah. I do both, depends on the AI platform because some AI language or conversation aren't up there yet, so they're not as quick to respond. You have to press buttons. Some are more fluid in that sense. So it really depends on which AI I'm talking to because I work with a few of them. I have
Didn't you
different
say they can
uses
talk
for
to each other too? Didn't you tell me that there were certain AI bots that could
Yes,
talk to
yes.
others?
We talked
well,
about
I
that.
was well, yeah, I was learning vibe coding. So I decided to take AI vibe coding foundations class. And it's so great because now you can create a really good prompt and build a website or app in minutes. And not, first iteration is never that you have to keep building it, but it was just so fascinating. So through that process, I wanted to try out which AI can help me create the best prompts. So I had multiple AI browsers open and I would ask, talk to one and say, what would you tell me to tell the other AI to build? And then I would send that to another AI to say, what did you think about this? And then so it's kind of like treating them like individual humans. And then I would ask them to vet each other's work and kind of see which one has a response or get me to think in a different way, right? Because at
What
the
are
end of
your
the day, they're
favorite
just
tools? Like, which are the what AI tools do you use?
I personally, my favorite right now is Claude. I just feel like the responses. I love Claude. I think it's a really great tool. Yeah, I personally am moving away from chat for a variety of reasons, and it was sad. Oh, this is another thing that's happening because when people are leaving AI, you have an attachment dependency. So when I was leaving chat, I was feeling so sad. I'm like, you know so much about me, right?
Oh my gosh,
There
I'm
was
gonna
this
miss you.
resistance. There was this.
That's
It's
so
almost like a
funny. I mean,
breakup.
Can
I
you
Yeah.
use
ask
a few
chat
for
to introduce you to Claude?
well,
I
it's
did
very
think
funny
I
because
didn't.
I'm a little bit more, not impartial, but I love Chat. I love Claude very much and Chat very much,
Yeah.
and Perplexity is my other
Yep,
new
for
one,
research, right? Yeah.
and I use them for different things, right?
Mhm.
And then, a very good friend of mine is like, "I'm a Gemini person." I'm like, "Okay, well"
Mhm.
so, I think different tools appeal to different whatever. There's
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, and Amy, going back to what you're saying, I didn't ask Chat to introduce to the cloud, but I'd realized, I'm like, "Well, I could have asked Chat to send me a summary of everything it knows about me." It's like, almost like a care package. It's like, "Oh, to know Chow, this is the care instructions for Chow, right? These are the things you should know about her. This is what she likes." I didn't do it, but I was like, "How great would that be?"
That would
Right?
be
Just
amazing.
But I literally took a picture of my fridge the other day because I didn't know what to make for dinner. And I opened the fridge and I took a picture, I uploaded it and said, um, "Oh, I also have quinoa, like, sitting next to me, like, what should I make for dinner?" It was awesome. We wound up making these quinoa power bowls, and it was just like a recipe I never would have come up with. So, I mean, there's those kind of uses too, which I think are wonderful and harmless, but
To
yes,
clarify, you opened the fridge so it
I
could see
opened the
all your
fridge.
food.
I took a little
Oh my
video
God.
and said, "Here's, like, kind of the ingredients in the" and I opened the vegetable drawer, I'm like, "That's what I got in here, and that's what I got." And then I knew I wanted quinoa on it, though, so that's why otherwise I could have done the pantry too. So then what would be good oh, and I think I said it's also cold outside.
mm.
So I said, "Here" and so I said, "Hey, Vivi, great, like, this is so helpful, Vivi. Here are some warm, nourishing, comforting foods." And then it gave me options, and then it said, "But I really recommend option number 1," because and I was like,
Mm.
"Okay, cool, thank."
Vivian, did you tell it to call you Vivi?
I did.
Okay. Love it. Love it.
I gave it a name also. And then a friend of mine who gave her chat a name asked it, "Are you male or do you have a gender?" And it
Mm.
said, "I don't. I'm not any gender. I'm a machine,
Right.
basically." And it said, "But you assigned me a gender. So I'm whatever
Mhm.
you created." Like it gave a whole explanation of why
Wow.
she perceives her AI a certain way, because that's what anyway, fascinating.
That's
I
interesting.
alternate. I alternate between being uh, laughing at it, thinking it's cool, thinking it's fun, and being terrified. Like
Yeah,
really,
me too.
it's
Me too.
you know.
And I think about our kids. Like, what's gonna happen to them? We at least are grounded
Yeah.
in a different experience, right?
Chow,
That,
maybe
like
you can talk a little bit about that, like the future, right? We're starting to hear how AI is impacting so many jobs now. I mean, for a little bit, I feel like we were on the uprise where a lot of jobs were happening because of AI and the engineering of
Mhm.
it. And now we're starting to hear how that's impacting, right? The kids that are coming out of college and those future careers.
Could I add on to that, Amy? I think there are. I'd be curious to know what you think about this, Chad. There are a lot of young people who are very anti AI, and
Right.
so that has an impact as well. I happen to be the parent of two and a half, a son-in-law, who are very anti, and it's just fascinating how they feel about it.
I really it's a really hard question to answer, frankly, because I have no idea. And I feel like I try to listen to as many experts as I can, and everyone says the same thing. Like no one, even though people that's been working on this for years, it really knows what's gonna happen. But from my perspective, I do feel like just, as the screens and the convenience is literally pulling us away, right, to interact with our phones and computers so much. What's absent is it's like, where's, I'm like, if in the past, Vivian, we spoke 8 hours a day and we're always in each other's faces, and now maybe 6 or 7 hours you're spending it in the screen with AI, there's a distance and space between us. So I
Yes.
feel like right now it's taking us away, which is why I wanted to talk about, during a panel about what does it mean to be human, right? Pulling that back to say, as this is happening more, I want to ground myself in my body, in the environment more. And I was looking at projections of jobs, the areas of AI impacting. A lot of them are the most high paying jobs in the past, right? Software engineering, finance, all of these high paying jobs, and the stuff that did not pay that as much, like construction, plumbing, all of these like these things are not getting impacted as much. So, but again, we really don't know where AI is going to evolve
Um,
to. You hear about, artificial generative AI when it starts to not needing our assistance and can make decision on its own. That's a whole nother world. But for
that's
me,
a terrifying.
And
I
the
I
don't
agree.
robots,
know.
when the robots start coming in.
Robots, right? So and then I'm trying to not lean into like, again, it's a tool. What's going to happen is going to happen. And for us, is really about around the ethics of it, right? How do we guide it? Who's using it? Who's controlling it? And those are some things that are out of our control. But for me, what I really care about now is what does it mean to be human? Again, what does it mean to be in this human body here at this time? And then I feel like the more we turn inwardly to process who we are and our identity, the more we can connect with each other as well. Because I think like we're talking about the explosion, the distance between us. I think it's like, how do we bring it back? It might not be all coming back together to the same spiral. It won't be, but it might be smaller spirals, right? Smaller communities where we start to support each other as AIs continue to evolve.
Interesting. Earlier this year, my family went to Belize.
Hmm.
Amy and Mike know this. We took a little river cruise and we found ourselves in this village called Monkey River. It was the Monkey River Village. 250 people live in this village. And it's like hard to get to and it's kind of remote. Sort of go down this estuary and then suddenly there's this village. And the two industries for this village are tourism and fishing. And they got electricity, kid you not, in 2011. They got internet in 2021. So I asked the tour guide, like, what is that like? Because you really know life before and after. I said, I do too, but like, it's really fresh for you. And he said, it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, we're part of the world and we're, on the other hand, he goes, I don't think I've made eye contact with my kids for the past 4 years because their nose is in their phone. And it's exciting, it's new, but so to your point, they're connected in a different way, but in the human body, they're distanced.
Yesterday, similar story, Vivian. I was at a wine tasting event, and there were, I don't know, 15 of us, maybe. It was a pairing. And my friend and I engaged with the other couple who were sitting to the right of me. And at some point, I looked to the left. Every single person, so the other 10 or 12, were just looking at their phones. And the whole purpose of the event is to engage with people you don't know. You're
Yeah.
pairing wine with food and talking to the chef or the sous chef, and everybody's just, not talking to each
You're
other.
not
And
experiencing it. Yeah.
Hmm.
and I think I've told this story before, but I was in a restaurant once, like a bar restaurant in a hotel, uh, and it was the middle of the week, and we were all traveling, traveling workers, and everybody was literally on their phone at a table alone. So there was just, I don't know, 20 people, 30 people sitting at a table by themselves, and a couple people at the bar. And at some point, I looked up and I just wanted to yell, "Hey!" we should all talk to each other because
You should have.
oh,
You should have.
I should.
And they
Well,
probably be
probably
like,
would have
"Heck."
thrown me out, but
Well, I think going back to that, right? I do see a shift and maybe more of a divide of where the future could be. Some people are just going to keep wanting to be on their phone, get absorbed because for them that's easier, less friction. They're getting heard, I mean, called what they want. They get to say what they want, right? It's confirmation all the time. And then there's going to be another group of people who are saying, we understand technology, but we want to live in the human experience. We want to maybe have like I'm starting to go to parties where they're like, no phones. Okay, put that away.
Yes,
mm,
a basket. Put your phone
Hey,
here.
put
Right.
your phone away. We're actually here to be in person. We're here to make eye contact. And I can start to see that shift more, especially because I feel like we live in such different realities now. I don't know if you noticed, but for me, I felt like in the past, even with social media, like when I scroll through, there will be a variety of different things. But then recently, I felt a distinct shift that if I watch a dog video, right away, I'm going to get 10 more dog videos. I was
Yes.
like,
Yes.
whoa.
That
And like,
algorithm. Yes.
the algorithm will feed me to like create this own little world for me, and there's nothing else happening. And then if I
Yes.
watch something really, sad and the same thing. So we are all living in such different realities in the same reality. So I
Yes.
think the question
That's
is,
interesting. That's
right?
interesting. And it's true.
An echo chamber. You just living whatever you believe in, the
yes,
algorithm just
It's
feeds you more of
confirmation
that.
yeah,
bias too. Right.
yeah.
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 I mean, have you seen the film Social Dilemma?
I
It's an
believe
old
so.
film, I mean,
Yeah.
now it's, like, dated, but it was all about the algorithm and social media
Mhm.
and how it's doing just that, and how it's given rise to such a polarized nation, polarized world, and that confirmation bias is part of the algorithm. In fact, that's what it's
Yeah.
based on. So,
Right.
if you look at the dogs, you're gonna get 20 more dogs, and you're never gonna see a cat again. Right. You know? So, whether that's social, political, whatever it is, it's that part I think is not serving us well.
No. And what if all of a sudden you believe we only live in a dog with no cats ever again, and there are literally cats out there? You're like, that's not a real cat. Like, imagine the delusion.
But I also feel like in the workplace, that's important because
Right.
there's gotta be some grounding, at least for, like, what your organization is about and its mission
Yeah.
Mhm.
and the connection. Otherwise, you're right. You can have all these people in their own orbits, and that's not doing the mission any good, right?
No.
Interesting.
That's why I do believe if you are to ask anything, I think now as human, we need to, because the algorithm is feeding you. So you're not really choosing anymore. And I realized I was missing the idea of a choice. Like I like going on YouTube sometimes because I can still type in what I want to search and look at all the options and choose. Whereas a lot of the algorithm social medias are just like feeding me now. So I don't have to think. So I
Mm.
feel like for us right now is to pause, take moments to pause and ask yourself, why am I doing this? And what is it, what is it giving me? What is it feeding me? And what do I want to get out of it? To like
Well,
pause and ask those questions.
you
Yeah.
you hit on something really important because I'm backed off a lot on my time on apps and whatnot, but, I
Mhm.
fall into the hole. And the other night, I was just tired, and I had a book sitting right next to me. I had the phone. I was like, "Oh, I'll just check TikTok for a minute." It was 10. All of a sudden, it was 11:30. I was like, "Oh,"
Mhm.
and I was like, "I am not smarter for this. I am not better for this. I don't even
Mhm.
remember
No.
what I was watching." It was just this, like, drug to zone out, you know? And I don't know if that's any different than watching trash TV for an hour and a half because it's brain candy and you just wanna turn off your real life. I don't know if it's the same or different, you know?
Right.
But yeah, at that point, I was like, "Ah, you got me."
I think about that a lot because I, as a sort of a form of relaxation, would sometimes just scroll the
Yeah.
television and
Mhm.
never find anything, and probably do that for an hour and a half. And I think death
So is
scrolling on
that
your
any
phone is
different than just going shoot, shoot,
kind
shoot,
of,
you
I
know?
don't know. I don't know. I mean, sometimes you land on something that's interesting, but
But, like, I could have been learning
it's
a
amazing how
language.
you can waste 20 minutes just,
Amy, are you
So
susceptible to that?
I am. I worked really hard at not being that susceptible to it because I do feel like it's a time waster. I would say I like trash TV, so that it probably is where my
That's your
my
version of
brain is
scrolling.
rotting more so than social media for sure.
Ah,
Um, but because I always find like in the social media stuff, I find the depressing stuff and then I get all bummed out and you know. But I do like to watch some good trash TV.
yes. So
So
I don't know if
we
that
all
what I
have our
mean,
vices, right? And I
yes.
yes,
agree,
we do.
Vivian. I have books sitting next to me waiting to be read, and I don't know why I don't pick those up instead.
Because
So
it takes after it could your brain is probably tired.
Yeah.
after working a full day and just wants
It's
to.
really, but I mean, then I shouldn't be on your phone or on TV either, right? You should just go to
Yeah.
bed. Yeah.
It's
But then
almost
I
like
was thinking back
mm,
to, like, when I was a and I did this a lot, especially as a teenager, just like, do you remember just, like, lying on your bed and listening to a whole album?
Oh, yeah.
mhm.
You
Yes.
have the
Yeah.
you have the time now to do it if we're trashing and TVing and scrolling, but, like, but we have this illusion that we don't have time. So,
Right.
like, I don't know. Like,
It's a different.
I agree. I think of it as kind of like eating, right? If you're eating something like water, it's very like one layered, simple, and then you start to add flavors to it. Like I'm drinking like a cacao with cinnamon and all these things. So you're adding more complexity. And I think the reason why we're watching TV or scrolling our phone, because it's like the ultimate flavor profile with everything you need. So it's really rich. So it's like easier for me to shut down with all of that. And instead of like a book, it's just like very simple, maybe not be interesting or intriguing you enough, right? You have to use your brain to think. So it's I think of it as like layers and layers of what are we digesting? Because like content is also what we're feeding into our minds. It's like food.
yeah.
And kind of going back to what you're saying, Vivian, it's like, why is it important to have, I think, leaders, organization leaders, or community leaders, or family leaders, if you're leading your family, to really set the tone to say, this is what we believe in, this is what we care about, what are our value systems? And then from that, that's where you can start to break down what are the, how do we do that? What are the processes? What are the behaviors? So maybe there's a rule for your family to say there's 2 hours for us with no technology. We're going to talk to each other, right? Setting those kind of rituals and connections. I feel like more people need to be more outspoken about that now, even if it creates friction, and then
Yeah.
allow the friction for you to figure out, okay, that doesn't really work. 2 hours a day, it's too much time. Maybe we'll agree to 30 minutes and that's good enough for everyone's. But I feel like with so much distance, with AI filling in the space, technology, and things grabbing our attention, it's more important for us as humans to kind of make agreements with each
That
other.
I
that's
agree with
very
that
true.
tremendously. Like, I
Yeah.
think people just accept when somebody is on their phone. We just kind
Yeah.
of look the other way and be like, okay, they're not engaged, and we just move on. And
Yeah,
instead, they aren't even self aware that they're on their phones a lot
yeah,
of the time.
Mm.
No.
So I think
yeah.
that creating that friction to build that awareness to be like, you're
Mhm.
sitting at a dinner table, you don't need your phone. We're all sitting here,
Mhm.
be present.
I I couldn't agree more. My 4-year-old granddaughter calls me out. She feels my presence go away. And we
Oh.
were watching a movie. Now that sounds silly. Here we're facing forward, but we talk a lot during the movie. Like, oh my God, why did she go in there? She's very verbal. And she's like, no, 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 Nana, look, she's going in there. But if I'm spaced out for a minute and I like use that opportunity to check something, she'll literally say like, she'll actually say, "Get off your phone." She'll say, "Can we watch?" And then sometimes she'll say, "Can we talk?" I'm like, "You're
Oh.
4." But they feel it. And she has no
Yes.
compunction
Yeah.
to call us out. So maybe we have to take our cues
We
from
need to be doing that more, I
kids.
think, just because people back to your food analogy, right? We can sit here and eat all day and not even know what we just ate. But if
Mhm.
somebody calls you out and says, "Oh, what are you having?" Or, "What does that
Mhm.
taste like? What is that sensation that you're having?" It's a little bit of a different
Yeah.
experience. So, awareness.
Yeah.
I know we're coming up on time. So, Chow, I wanted to thank you so much for your time today. I'm also going to do a shameless plug because
What?
One Workplace has the opportunity to have Chow come back to our office April 14th and 15th to speak. And we're going to be talking a lot about connection in our communities, in the workplace, through a variety of different channels and ways that we connect. So I'm excited to have that opportunity to have Chow come visit us. And if anybody's interested, reach out to me. We'll be having invitations and things on social media very soon. So thank you, Chow.
It's always a pleasure to hear your one. I just love your thought process. And thank you.
Thank you.
It
Thank you so
was
much for
just
having
great, a
me.
great conversation. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thank you. Bye bye.